So I want to be clear on that. There's no, how can I say it? There's no quick fix, or how can I say, there's no shake weight era that you're going to just magically understand something and connect this science into your real life. Because it's more than just reading some scriptures. If your life is not manifesting what you're reading or what you're studying or what your belief system is all about and who you're covenanting with, it's nothing honorable or noble being poor and broke. Stop listening to people getting you caught up in catchphrases like fiat. Everybody needs finances. Give me. I'm going to give you a scripture. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 19. Read that for me while we get into our Lord's prayer. Write that down. Somebody give me that text real fast. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 19. Somebody tell me what that's all about, and then we can have another conversation. Somebody talk to me, because it's all about the vessel. Somebody get that while we give this prayer. And when I give you rules and how things should be, we don't have to do things the wrong way. If we're going to teach more science, it should be taught the right way and teach what the law is about. So this is how, when I say, and me and my dad were just talking about this. We were talking about how things should be some tradition, Islam noble, how we talk about some things, tradition is good, and how some things are not. And so when I pay homage to certain things, that's good. And when we pay homage to things that keep us in line and in order, that's good. So these are some of the things that I keep in mind, that I pay homage to. So I'm going to give this Moorish American prayer and giving homage to the higher self and how to keep things in order. So I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work or in the streets or in the homes. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. One of my homies was like, "What's my cash app?" My cash app $KG Bay. I mean, like I tell Morris, you know what it is every day. If you go to a club and club hop and spend your money, if you come on here and you say you're getting fed, it's okay to give a donation that comes from the heart, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. We should be willing to do that every time, because I would. But all true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in the prophet, they should turn in their card, button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement. Found it. Didn't say originally, he found it. He brought something back to our remembrance. Noble Ali did bring the Moorish Science Temple of America. He did bring American Islam back to Negro, black, and color, nationality-wise. I'm telling you, I don't diss anyone. I don't diss anyone, but I can tell you a lot of religions, especially Farrakhan and all of them, they knew who Noble Ali was, and they would profess of it, and they'd tell you about it, because I have all the tapes and I play it all the time. When we talk about this American Islam, telling you that you're not Negro, black, and color. That's why the prophet is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. So when I talk about protecting the prophet and the temple, watch how I break this down to yourself as well. That's esoterically and exoterically. Are you feeling what I'm saying? When it says we are protecting their prophet and the temple, not only are we protecting that physical, but we're protecting that spiritual prophet and the temple as well. Yourself, to be upright, to be noble. This is an everlasting movement founded by a prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. I just wanted to clear that little part up. Man, and I'll be telling people, listen to the civics and get things out and don't get into your lower self when I say words have duality and you must research words. You can't get caught up and listen to somebody catchphrases because you might think they're saying something. A clock is right how many times? A wrong clock is right how many times a day? A broke clock. You see? You see that? So we can't get caught up with some goofball saying something that may sound right and then the rest of the stuff come out of his mouth dumb as hell. You ain't no psychic because you say you can look at yourself and say, okay, at this time tomorrow it's gonna be the same time. No shit. That ain't no magical. That ain't no mystery. You see what I'm saying? So when people use words and phrases and they don't understand local law, state law, and federal law, and the duality of words, and when words are used in certain contexts, especially without a thing that I call legal genre, if you don't understand the words that are coming out of my mouth and a context that they're being used in that field, man, I can get you lost in translation or mistranslation. Especially if I'm using a law language, which is legal genre. Just like if somebody talk about no disrespect, they Jewish, and you speak Yiddish and all these different languages. You understand what I'm saying? But that's a whole nother conversation. So when people be talking about the citizens of a free national government, according to their national constitution, are all of one family, bear one free national name. And those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuse and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it's a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional law of a free national government and cling to names and principles that allude to slavery. See, this is why a lot of people, I tell people no disrespect, why they still want you to be called Negro, black, and colored, because they don't want to connect you to a damn thing. You know? Oh, it's all good, Noble. Because they don't want to connect you to nothing. Islam. You know? Because they don't want to connect you to nothing. So they'll still keep you caught up with a misnomer. Negro, black, and color, Latino, Mexican, Hispanic, and call you minority. No, no way. And then the dictionary prove who the copper color races are. You know? These are the things that I'm going to teach when I get deeper in the schooling. You know, these are things we're supposed to know. We're supposed to know. We have to go back to the state of mind, to our forefathers' divine and national principles, that all of us will be law abiders and receive our divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. And see, this is the thing that I tell brothers. You got to get out your lower self and research. You have to. You can't get caught up in catchphrases and a person telling you what something is and what is not, and they're not studying real law, because you get caught up in your lower self, or the wrong context, or somebody using linguistic apartheid, speaking way over your head, all got you out of jurisdiction. You know, they use heavy words like TI. They don't know what the hell he talking about sometimes. No disrespect. Just because you use big old words don't mean nothing. Break it down for a kid can understand it. You know? We're talking about real civics. You know, we got to receive our divine rights as a people, according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. We are to claim our own free national name and religion. The religious laws protect you. If you don't understand that, something wrong with you. There is but one issue for us to be recognized by this government on this earth, and it comes through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. If we're going to do something, and then we can take it to the right way. That's why I be telling Moors. I'm like, it's no secret with me. If any more science temple that's set up in China, right, they should be on the corner like, hey, Negro, black, and color. If nationality is the order of the day, why y'all ain't nationalizing people to the temple? That's all I gotta say. See, I don't be rocking with nobody that's talking no dumb stuff. If nationality is the order of the day, and you're a Moorish Science Temple, which is only one Moorish Science Temple, there's only one Grand Sheikh of the temple, and that's Noble Drew Ali, and it's supposed to be different subordinate temples, charter temples. And if they're charter right, they're supposed to be nationalizing people, giving them Moorish ID just like I have, not trying to indoctrinate you to any goddamn dogma. You understand what I'm saying? And if that's not the case, then we have a problem. We have a problem, Houston. Ain't that what they say? Ain't that in the movie, Mom? Houston, we have a problem. You feel me? And that's all I'll be saying. I'm like, I want you to use your hippocampus. I want you to use your reasoning. You're supposed to be a philosopher, a thinker, a scientist. What you done got caught up in what? Smoking damn mirrors? Think about this. Just think about this. If we're going to be honorable and noble, and say people are following the teachings of Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Temple of America, which was established to give Negro, blacks, and color their new spirituality, a new religion from their foremothers and forefathers, but not only teach them that they do have a name, a holy and divine creed, and you can be nationalized through the temple, which was chartered, which was set up with the religious affidavit, the 1010 number, which you can look up. Anybody can pay $10, $15 anywhere, right in at the clerk's office and at the county clerk, and get the Constitution, how the temple was set up, and see this. Anybody produce some card at home using the 1010 number? That's fraud. That's a damn fraud. How can you use something that you're not connected to? There's no way. That's just like you use somebody's social security number, like, oh, I'm gonna use this. You ain't connected to nothing. Like, you gonna use our tax ID number. You ain't connected to us. You're not a member on paper. You understand what I'm saying? So it's legality of things. And if a person want to enforce something, all you have to do is enforce it. Not saying that it's right because nobody enforced it. If a person want to enforce something and things are being done fraudulently, which is a lot of these Negro, black, and colors doing, making all these cards, putting the fake numbers on there, and it's not connected to the Moorish Temple, where you can look it up from the Bureau of Vital Statistics, that's fraud. That's fraud. And this ain't no military excuse. See, in the military, they got a thing, excuse, they call it brainwash. But ain't no such thing for that right now in brainwash. That means you stupid. Not just such thing as fraudulent concealment, but no adult should be stupid like that. None. No adult should be falling for that dumb stuff. Somebody printing you some damn passport. Talk about it kind of work. Somebody printing you some ID card. Somebody printing you some plate. What is connected to? Like, come on, man. There's nothing behind this stuff, man. People got to stop lying to people, man. People gonna get hurt and gonna get killed and all this stupid shit, and ain't nobody gonna be there for their ass. I mean, because none of this stuff means anything. I'm gonna tell you, law, when you become a student, what a nation and the nation really consists of, and how that connects, and what that's all about, legally and lawfully. I'm gonna show you what that's all about. None of this other stuff means poo fucking diddly. Excuse my language, man, because people fall for that smoke and mirror stuff. Like, who gonna print you a license plate? Talk about this, and you gonna ride around with that? You gonna ride around with that and get pulled over like with no license and all this? Talk about this your land. Talk about you ain't in your conveyance. All this stupid stuff to prove what? I'll wait. To prove what? To prove what? To drive right back to your raggedy neighborhood. To go right back to the job you complain about. To go right back to the woman you abusing or whatever. Go to work, come home, sit on the couch, drink beer, get high, don't do nothing. They ain't producing nothing but talk about you and more. And you're not upright. You're not teaching your babies this. You're not trying to be honorable. You're not trying to clean yourself up. The teachings will clean you up. The teacher's supposed to give you honor and nobility. Come on, man. That's what I teach. That's what I teach. So if people looking for something else with me, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. Money don't make the man. It's the free national standards and power that makes a man, a nation, and the wealth of all national governments. Gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens alone, and without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And when I talk about calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and that enforce of the Constitution to help me in a great missionary, just like when I talk about stuff that's on the Liberty Bell, I know more is not reading when I talk about the Leviticus Code. You know? All true American citizens of the United States of America. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be a Moorish American. Y'all know that song by that rock and roll dude, man? And I'm proud to be an American. At least I know I'm free. And I'm proud to stand the grace of God. Y'all know that? Y'all remember that? And I've got to stand up. I'm proud to be a Moorish American. You hear me? This is the only place where I'd rather be, man. Come on, right? This is the only place you can have a free national name and be poor and be successful and to be a leader of men. Come on, man. But you talk about you want to go somewhere. You want to expatriate from the de facto government. Where your black ass finna go? I'll wait. You're going to be a domestic terrorist. You're going to be looked at as a domestic terrorist. Don't y'all know SOS means shoot on sight? I'm telling you, man, I know too many more is locked up. Look at all of them that they ain't promulgating, they finna print you no ID card, all this stuff. They locked up. I'm telling you. I start, man, I got so many texts like, nope, everything you said was right. I'm like, I know. I'm telling you, man, I used to come on, man, my dad right here. I used to come on from the temple. My dad used to be cracking up. I used to read the Quran, and they'd be like, man, see, you so deep, man. You and that mystical stuff. And my dad was like, we be like, this in the Holy Quran. They ain't have it. Am I lying, Dad? Dad, no, Dad, my dad right here, y'all. Look, no, for real, Dad, look. Look, listen, y'all. I had the temple out here at my metaphysical temple. My dad used to come out here. I used to come home with them goofy Moors, these grown men, them Negroes that not study the Moorish Quran. I used to come home with my head in my ass like, Dad. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, them Negroes don't even read the Moorish Quran. Am I lying, Dad?
They didn't even have it.
They ain't even have it. They ain't even have it. Do you hear me? So when I be talking about stuff, I don't just be blowing smoke up nobody, but I'm telling you, man, these Negroes be acting like some damn Crips and Bloods. These Negroes be acting like some Crips and Bloods. I'm telling you, man. Grown men, none of their wives come. None of the kids come. You talk about you teaching some more science. You ain't teaching no more science. What you in there teaching is hate. That's what you in there teaching. You ain't teaching no love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. You in there a whole bunch of goofball Negroes talking about a whole bunch of old shit that ain't doing nothing. Acting like some damn domestic terrorists. That's exactly what they acting like. And I don't give a damn what nobody say. That's just what I seen. That's just what I'm telling you what that's popping. That's why I'm creating my own. I'm dealing with people that's wanna come up from under something. You are more by birthright. No one can make you a more. No one can nationalize you or denationalize you. If anybody tell you that, if anybody should tell you that, they a lie and a sin and no truth in them. Can no temple, no man, nobody can make you something that your foremothers and forefathers have created you at birth. Nobody can do that. Nobody can do that. You must proclaim, declare, and have due process. That's number one. And must what? Self-proclaim. No one told you when you fill out something, they got Negro, black, and color, and African American, and your black ass fill out African American, and then put your fez on when you come home instead of self-identifying what? Writing Moorish American and putting a box next to it. See, this is the thing when I talk about self-identified, just like all rights reserved. When I tell people what? You got the right to reserve what? Your right. You got the right to back out anything else, just like anybody else, if you understand that you are a business. And stop begging and operate as a business. This is what I tell people. We get caught up in smoke and mirrors. We get caught up in smoke and mirrors, man, because we don't want to be honorable and noble. And I'm telling you facts. I had the temple out here for years. The Negroes wouldn't even pay their dues. These grown men, their wives wouldn't even come. I'm telling you, my wife used to come after I used to have metaphysical class. She used to be like, she want to stay. She'd be like, where the women? I'd be like, babe, I don't know. Am I lying, babe? I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, man. So that's why I say I create my own. I create a school for the family, for the women, the children, the babies. This is connecting God and man as one. And then teaching your divine creed and nationality. We're not dissing anything. I'm trying to build families, man. I'm trying to build wealth. I'm trying to show y'all that we can have a community with the laws protect us. Not no fake magical stuff. Not no let me use something, let you go to court and try to use you as some damn crash dummy and see if something work. That ain't no damn more science. None of that crap is more science. None of that crap is more science. And that's why I be saying a lot of these temples is garbage. And I ain't talking about the ones that's outright. But if you ain't teaching the science and nationalizing people through the temple, at least giving them a Moorish ID and then telling them the real law, what the 8822 number is really about, which I'm going to teach, and what that law consists of, and how you must have 30,000 Negro, black, and color identifying under one national name, under one national flag, and that must go to the world courts. That's law. That's international law. That's facts. That ain't nothing to dispute. I don't give a damn if you say I don't like his big eyes. I don't give a damn. That's law. And I'm telling you, and Obama told you in 2010 that you have a right of a nationality, but what was so prophetic, he said you have a right to change your nationality. That's what he said. And no one would be arbitrarily deprived of a nationality or a right to change it. You know? You see? You see what I'm saying? That's right. And I say this over and over. I say it ain't about you liking what nobody's saying. If you dealing with law, and that's why people be getting confused because they were, well, I don't believe that. And I said, see, that's the problem. No one. This ain't about what you believe. You can believe in a damn rock. That's you, but that ain't more science. If you believe in a rock, man, Islam, assalamu alaikum, nigga, amen, nigga, what? Shoot, what? Whatever. You know what I mean? That's on you. But I'm talking about dealing with righteousness and dealing with law and connecting things and synchronizing things. That's what this is about, man. Right? Right, y'all? I'm telling you, man, we've been lied to and fraudulently concealed. I'm gonna give you all these laws, man. This, when I tell people the art of war, this is what you're gonna get from me in the civics class. When I'm gonna teach you everything. I heard Amor say we don't need that no more. I said, see, that don't even make sense. You need everything. Isn't 1 + 1 2? I know, of course, but 2 times 2 is 4 too, right? And just because you learn math multiplication, you don't get rid of mathematics because both of them still work, and those are tools in the toolbox. Just like what your Morse Quran says, these are the tools that we use in our toolbox. Just like in our committed and adapt science, the same thing. So we use all these tools, man. Talk about we don't need nothing no more. You got to be crazy. How come we don't need that no more? Because you know how to run. You're going to forget how to walk. You're going to run every damn where. Everywhere going to go, your ass going to be running. Because you learn how to run. Well, you ain't going to walk? You ain't going to pace yourself? Come on, man. Use your hippocampus. I'm just trying to be literal. I'm just trying to, break things down to you so we can see the stupidity of the choices that we make, not sacrifices. We help our babies with the choices because we sacrifice for our babies, but we're adults. We're supposed to be children in our sin, but adults in our thinking and in our wisdom. And sin doesn't mean you're doing nothing bad. Sin just means you ain't doing what the hell you're supposed to be doing. That's what sin is. Not living up to your abilities, living in your lower self, down yourself, around all negative people, sucking all your damn animal energy. It's blood suckers, it's vampires, and you choose to be around that crap. Why? Because all you got to do is get the hell up away from it. Do you got any ailments? No. Are you missing any ailments? No. Are you retarded? Are you special ed? Are you LD? None of those ailments. Nothing wrong with you. So you have a sound mind. As long as you're alive, you got to try to get it and connect with the right ones. That should be a lifelong mission. If we pertain in this to love, because love is an action word, right? And if you love what you do, man, we do this until the flesh is gone, man. So in my civics, you're going to learn about life, liberty, and property. I'm going to give you science. It's from Civics examining meaning, the phrase life, liberty, and property, and its role in history. The rights of life and liberty and property entail all of its important in our earthly life. Thus, all political conflicts between people and their governments have centered around this concept. Learn what due process of law and the law of the land really mean in regards to protection of your rights. It must be remembered that one who does not understand the law does not understand his rights or her rights, and is thus no better off than one who has no rights. The context of this course is what I'm going to teach. Covers some critical legal and historical information needed to reestablish your rights and the political foundations which are being destroyed. This course I'm going to teach, man, is going to give you a lot of science, and I'm just going to summarize this civic part of the class. That's why I said you're going to get so much wisdom. Of course, you're going to know the common law handbook. We're going to teach this. And we're going to teach on the trustee on the arrest and false imprisonment. These is legal classes. We're going to teach this. You're supposed to know all this. That's the true art of war, understanding the thought. But you're going to like lesson 1, life and liberty, the basics of life, liberty, and property, definition of life and liberty and property, historical origins, a self-government introduction, all that stuff. Lesson 2, the law of the land, nature of law of the land, Magna Carta and English law, confirmation of Magna Carta, the law of the land, American law of the land, the unwritten constitution of the United States, the political conflict over liberty, conflicts in biblical history, English law, and the Norman Quest, King John and Magna Carta, the political conflict over liberty, law above government, the religious aspects of life, liberty, and property. You see what I'm saying? The religious aspects of life, liberty, and property, conforming to the law of God, the colonial ministries of liberty, Lesson 8, the American doctrine of due process in colonial America. This one I be telling more. Me and my parents were just talking about this. When I say you have the right to remain what? I'm finna say shut the hell up. You got the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. So when somebody tell you that, when I don't care what catchphrase you want to use, a policyholder, a police officer, when somebody tells you you have the right to remain silent, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Why the hell do you open your mouth? That ain't your Miranda right. That's the Fifth Amendment. You have nothing to say, not even with your legal counsel. And this is law. This is law, because there's nothing you can say can help you to get out of nothing. This is what I'm telling you, legally and lawfully. The American doctrine of due process, the American Revolution, fundamental law, not to be changed. Due process under the common law, legal concept of due process interpretation by common law, due process under the common law, intent to preserve common law principles. Do y'all think y'all need this? When somebody telling you don't need something, this will keep you in line. Be like, man, all this stuff they telling me is garbage. Limitations on the legislative power, colonial legislation limitations. Legislative law is not the law of the land. Limitations on police powers and special acts. Protection of fundamental rights, land rights and ownership. The right to labor, work, and business. The right to labor, work, and business. Possessions property. Miscellaneous cases on liberty and property rights. Do you think you need to know that? When somebody telling you you don't need, we don't need that no more. Well, they're not teaching you civics. You don't think you need to know a trustee on arrest and false imprisonment? When somebody talk about they teaching civics, what civics they teaching you? I'll wait. None. Definition of false imprisonment. What constitutes false imprisonment? Length of time required. Damages, liability, malicious prosecution, arrest without warrant, the law of the land, summons, complaint, memorandum of law on arrest without warrant, breach of peace and felony arrest. What is a breach of peace? Arrest for breach of peace, threatened breach of peace, conditions of a felony arrest, defense to unlawful arrest, burden of proof, good faith and probable cause, ignorance of law. When I say there's no excuse in a court of law of not knowing the law. Guilt and party arrest, immunity. It's a such thing as immunity. I ain't talking to nobody. I ain't got nothing to say. Do I get immunity? All right, I want immunity. I ain't got nothing to say anyway. Immunity, that's the only thing coming out of my mouth. The use of a warrant in arrest, warrant to be in possession of the arresting officer, warrant to be shown up upon arrest, invalid and unlawful warrants, bring an arrest person before a magistrate, duty of an offer, as a trespasser, ab initio. Detainment is not a decision of arresting officer. Arrest and releasing without bringing before a magistrate. Defenses, distortions of fundamental law, due process neglected. Fourth Amendment argument, highway traffic laws, resisting arrest, handcuffs, post-arrest booking process, fingerprinting. Man, you need all this. This take a while. Definition of false imprisonment. What constitutes false imprisonment? Length of time required, damages, liability, malicious prosecution, arrest without a warrant, the law of the land, summons, complaint, memorandum of the law, arrest without warrant. I'm telling you, man. And that's how people getting you caught up in things. They're not telling you all law, using you as some damn crash dummy. You know, when I tell people, man, whenever people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. You know? And I don't know of no safe depository of the ultimate power of the society, but the people themselves, Moors. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with their wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion. That's Thomas Jefferson. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of my son after those days, says the Lord. And I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. Hebrews 8:10. Man is endowed by his creator with certain unalienable rights, and governments are instituted among men to secure these rights. The laws of nature and of nature's God entitle we the people to judge people in his name, government, servant, judges cannot. And the king of the common law, of course, is God, and we the people, as jurists sit on the king's bench, whose will we must reflect. Stay in the context. We the people, being the what? Arbiter of the law, have the authority and the duty to judge and decide all things with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy. If we're talking about things done in the flesh, we judge the facts, the laws, and the sentences with an eye, right? We do things based on those principles. We talk about two great maxims that govern all criminal cases. You can bank on these two things. In order for there to be a crime, there must be an injured party. And for every injury, there must be a remedy. And every man and every body of men on earth possesses the right of what? Self-government. That's Thomas Jefferson. That's we the people have government by consent. Do you know what consent means? Ma, you know what consent means, don't you?
Yes, I do.
There are two areas where we the people give consent to our government. Watch this. They are judicial systems and the political systems. That later is where we the people have the power and authority to choose our statesmen per se for ballot through the what? Through that process, if you understand what I'm saying. So when we talking about things and people say they don't have a voice in certain things, I'm showing you. Not to say things are right, just stay in that context. When I say things protect you, laws protect you, that's what I'm trying to really, really hammer in people's head. Your nationality protects you. I'm just telling y'all, man, a lot of stuff we've been lied to. Just like a lot of people, just like when I say Hosea 4, we lost due to a lack of knowledge. Like we talk about kumbaya, and we always somebody told us talk about that meant some come by here. I'm telling y'all, I know everybody thought that, and I'm like, what makes you think that? You know? But when you look things up, the cum or the QUM in the lexicon 6965, it means stand up and arise. Where do people get come by here from? Wait. Tradition. Tradition. And I'll just explain that tradition don't mean it's right, it's law. Just because somebody telling you that, put it up in the Strongs, in the Hebrew, in the lexicon, 6965. It means stand up and arise. The ba doesn't have any meaning alone in Hebrew, but the abbreviation for Abba, which means father. And you don't have to quote me on that. But I'm just using my educated reasoning. Yah in the Strong lexicon gets 3050. And the word is translated as Lord in scripture. We're referring to God of Israel. You see what I'm saying, y'all? So loosely translated, the words mean arise, Father God, and not come by here, as you've been told. Come and arise, my Lord. Stand up and arise. That sounds better to me than some damn come by here. What you finna come by here and do? Come by here and do what? I mean, think about it. Stand up and arise, my Lord. Stand up and arise. You're talking about you. He's telling you to stand up and arise. I'm telling you, because they didn't understand what we were saying. We had to talk in our tongue. I'm telling you, man. I'm trying to tell y'all. These are simple things. Just like when Negroes be singing some Amazing Grace. I'll be like, oh, here we go. I'll be like, come on, man. You don't even know what Amazing Grace come from. You say that's some Negro hymn. Who told you that? Tell me. That's the most craziest song where I hear black. I told y'all what I did when I walked in that temple and they were singing that song. I cringed. I'm like, that ain't got nothing to do with you. Well, that's what we was told. Exactly. That's exactly what you was told. And now you want to do it. So you just gonna walk right and say this is fire right here and it's burning. You say, well, hell, I know it's fire, but hell, everybody walked through the fire and died. We just gonna walk through the fire and burn too. But you don't have to. Why you gonna do that? You know that shit gonna burn you. You don't gotta do that dumb stuff. Right? But these are things when you've been stripped from your name, from when you were colonized, you know? When people talk about in the 1920s, when words originated with Southerners, they want to connotate them as slaves. You know, when they spoke in Gullah, And Gullah is the language that was spoken by the so-called slaves that inhabited North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. You know, I'm telling you how we was lied to. I'm telling you, man. Oh, and we're gonna get into it because we just got started. We ain't even got hot yet. We ain't even. This is what I'm saying. I'm giving you a crash course. When I connect things, when people be like, "Well, this not this," I say, "Listen, man. I'll deal with history and science. Y'all ever saw this? The Free Blacks of Israel Hill. These are things that it documents. When I talk about the blacks that came here in 1619 and was traded for food stuff, was here 400 years ago. But we'll talk about that later. But just to the west lies Israel Hill, settled in 1810 and 1811 by approximately 19 formerly enslaved persons who received freedom and 350 acres from Judith Randolph under the will of her husband, Richard Rudolph, cousin of Thomas Jefferson. These Israelites and other free African Americans. What other free African Americans? Moorish Americans. That's who. Ain't no other free African Americans. Ain't no what other free African Americans, man. I'm trying to tell you how they connect you, who the people were. Worked as farmers, craft people, Potomacs, riverboatmen. What's that? They want to connotate as pirates, but we were seafarers, navigators. I hope you connect in the language. Some labor alongside their whites for equal wages and defended their rights in court. What rights? Let me give you some science. When Abraham Lincoln defended who? The Moor in court. Research it. Before Abraham Lincoln was the president, in 23 years, he was a damn attorney. He defended the Moor in court. I can't think of the name of the Frederick, the Dungy case. If you can't find it, I got it in my documents. Research this. The family of earlier settlers, Hercules White, bought and sold real estate in Farmville and joined with white citizens to found its town's first Baptist church in 1836. Israel Hill remained a vigorous black community into the 20th century. So you got to know history. This is what I teach the babies, man. Like I'm saying, this elementary. Have y'all like the 1898 Wilmington race riot? Consistent voting machines. Yeah, that's right. This history. That's right, cuz. This is why I know nobody they don't know never heard of this. And that's why I said we must be taught by our own brothers and sisters that can build us up. The voting machines that they, the blacks, never entered into any election. Complain a Democrat and other spirits and political things. When it's talking about the Negroes in Philadelphia and the vote, a Philadelphian told Alex D. Tocqueville, I might be pronunciating it wrong, Tocqueville in 1831, that Negroes could not appear at the polls without being mistreated. And what becomes of the reign of laws in this case? The French traveler asked. The law is nothing, the Philadelphia replied, if it is not supported by the public opinion. 6 years later, an English visitor asked why Negroes did not vote in Pennsylvania since no law specifically barred them. Just let them try, he was told. The Negro in Philadelphia, Turner, Tocqueville, and Beaumont in America. Black government unions, discontent in Republican Party. Perennial Republican candidate Daniel L. Russell had written to the state executive committee of the Republican Party of North Carolina that the Negroes of the South are largely savages and are no more fit to govern than are their brethren in African swamps, or so many Mongolians dumped down from pagan Asia. It was also recalled that Judge Russell, while serving on the bench at Southport and prosecuting a black for larceny, had declared that all Negroes are naturally born thieves. They will steal 6 days in a week and go to church Sundays and pray and shout their sins off and return to the bosom of their race, honored and respected members. Wow. Local black denounced Russell and the notes that the bosses of the party, here for 20 years or more, led the average color voted around the noses with black candidates James A. Laurie, stating that even in their own party, black Republicans have elected white bosses to the positions, and they have drawn the pay while the Negroes was taught by the bosses to hate those with whom they have been raised and lived with all their lives, greatly their disadvantage. Do you hear this? Laurie declared that because the Negro had quietly submitted to bossism, had quietly submitted to bossism in the past, it seemed to follow that they are called upon never to resist. In bondage, men have some protection, but none in politics. Men had only come here with their carpet bags, knapsacks, or whatever you call them, but now they were able to buy out New Hanover County. These men had come here and by the goodwill, forbearance, and votes of the Negro have held on the offices until they have come to believe that inherited them. And I can go on and on, man. Black Republican groups. In 1890, there was an organization of blacks, the Young Men Republican Club with J.H. Weber as president in 1895. The citizens of the First Ward formed a club in reaction to the fusionist politics so popular in state's capital. They called themselves the Republican Afro League and promised to fight legislation in Raleigh, which would reduce their civil rights. Here we go with these civil rights instead of human rights to a mere quasi citizenship. You can research this in the Williamton Messenger, July 23rd, 1890, February 9th, 1895, and February 16th, 1895, and white supremacy Republicans in April 1895. New Hanover County Republicans formed a white man's Republican Party, whose objective was to run the Negro out of office and out of local employment. This was in the William Messenger, April 14th, 1895. See, this is history. The Republican Party view of black voters in circa 1880, before a review of how white Williamtons organized a white government union prior to the 1898 conflict. It is illuminating to see how white Republican leaders viewed their black supporters. This may reveal to the reader why white Williamtons saw a need to form this organization and how black citizens who voted against the Republicans were viewed. In the late 1885, future President Warren G. Harding gave this assessment of black Ohio citizens who voted Democrat, and I quote, "Now the colored voters have the privilege of voting for whom and what they please, but just how they can display so much ingratitude as to vote against the true representatives of the party that proved itself their liberator is difficult to understand." Do you hear me? So he's saying, how are you going to vote on somebody that's your liberator? Somebody that say they freed you, nigga. I mean, that's what it's saying. Yeah. He said, if he isn't, ought to be damned. Go ahead, baby. But the shadow of go ahead, baby. But the shadow of Blooming Grove, Warren G. Harding and his times, Francis Russell, McGraw-Hill, 1968, page 69. That's in the book, McGraw-Hill. I know y'all so-called scholars know all about McGraw-Hill, right? The Shadow of Blooming Grove, Warren G. Harding and his times, Francis Russell, McGraw-Hill, 1968, page 69. At the 1888 Republican National Convention, Ohio's delegation was headed by political boss Mark Hanna, future President William McKinley, and past Ohio Governor Joseph Fire Engine Joe Foraker. Remember him, huh? Governor Joseph Fire Engine Joe Foraker. See, this old, y'all. The illustration how Republican carpetbaggers taught black voters how to use the franchise responsibly and how convenient delegates supported candidates. And he recalled a great many colored delegates from the South, as in their custom, had tickets to the convention, which they desired to sell. They brought their tickets to our rooms and the hotels. What they said that Negroes always trying to sell something. So the existence of a white government union in Wilmington was the result of a radical polarization, which led most, if not all, black citizens into a Republican Party. Listen to the Constitution and the bylaws of the white government union, 1898. And then we're going to get into these amendments. Listen to this. When I say things was written in law, when I say it's a power, when you know how to organize legally and lawfully, and then your religious laws, these are nothing but bylaws. You can have bylaws too. You're not understanding this when you're an organized nation. You're not following me. But listen to the Constitution and bylaws of the white government union of 1898. Our state is the only community in the world with a majority of white voters, where the officers selected to administer the government are the choice of Negroes and not of whites. This condition has been brought about by an unfortunate division among the white people and is likely to continue until the division is removed and unity again prevails among them as it did prior to 1892. But what you mean union? So how can you have peace when you want to destroy people? You see what I be saying? Like I'm for the love of all humanity. But when it come down for you to have a peace to destroy your people and strip them from who they are, that's no peace. That's chaos. The necessity for a closer union of white people of the state is so apparent that it requires no argument, and the necessity has called forth the organization of the White Government Union. This is not me. The White Government Union Constitution, Article 1. The name of the organization shall be the White Government Union. Article 2. The purpose of the organization shall be to reestablish in North Carolina the supremacy of white race, to promote individual effort in behalf of the party and its candidates on the path of the voters, and to bring the head of the organization in the countries and state more closely and easily in touch with the township organizations and the individual party voter. Article 3, neither oaths, grips, signs, nor passwords shall be allowed. Any union may, if it so desires, adopt a badge, button, insignia, or uniform. The organization shall be divided in a county man. I can go on and on. Every white man who desires white government in North Carolina and is willing to use every practicable and honorable means to restore white supremacy therein, and who possesses to support candidates pledges to effect that purpose in the ensuing election shall be eligible to membership of the township union. Man, come on, man. Come on. So you telling me you don't supposed to know law how to defend yourself and what the law and how I tell you laws work for you? When you understand where things come from and you don't be mad like no damn dog? Tell you, man. I told y'all the 13th and the 14th Amendments. The Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 did not free a single Negro, black, or colored. It didn't clear from the legally binding slave laws of 1779. The United States Constitution, the 3/5 clause. But however, Moors, not the same can be said of the 13th Amendment of 1865. And the first of the three Reconstruction Amendments did in fact abolished the institution of slavery, which opened the door of freedom to all African descents in North Africa. So you gotta understand that. You gotta make no mistake about it, Moors, that the 13th Amendment was the greatest and only document of manumissions. When I be using words, I hope you look up what manumissions are, ever to be enacted by the Congress of the United States. And this is facts. Although the two sections ratified were just watered down versions of the 20 sections originally proposed, and just one section was needed to free all African descents from their mental slavery and constitutional bondage in the United States. But then after that, in the 1865, when the two sections passed of the 13's original 20, yet it only took one of those to free all the so-called slaves from every U.S. nook and cranny. I'm telling you, man. You got to understand that the United States has never been without its so-called slave. When you understand the doctrine of discovery, when they reclassify, when they called you some racists, some heathens, it's never been without its slaves, and it's a vital ingredient to understand factual American history. But it's often used. It's often used by most historians. But it's most also remembered for the only time in her history that the U.S. ratified three major bodies of law into its Constitution, which concern her beloved parcels. And these three Reconstruction Amendments were written in the exclusive interest of slaves, Moors, and ex-slaves, and all other Negroes only. When I show you things about the word Reconstruction, was used to identify the upgrading of slavery, more so than downloading post-war American into a Reconstruction period. A Reconstruction period. Both of these political movements took place at the conclusion of the Civil War. When I tell y'all about the real cause of the Civil War, we're gonna talk about all that. These are books that they kept from you. Try to research that book on Amazon, how much the real cause of the Civil War is. I got them. They're super expensive. But it's we got to most assume the indicative of what was actually being reconstructed. You got to understand what was being reconstructed. So without the enslavement of the indigenous people of the West Africa, these laws would have never been ratified into existence. So watch this. In order to understand what I'm saying, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendments, particularly as pertaining to American slaves, stay in the context. If you say you're going to deal with civics, let's deal with it. Ex-slaves and as granted privileges as opposed to rights. And we need to focus briefly on what prompted their ratifications. And this enlightenment is necessary because most U.S. citizens were fooled in believing that the U.S. actually surrendered her slaves with no strings attached. But the words of our prophets and other teachers, even the fish would not take the bait, knowing the hook was hidden there, right? Remember, America is totally unknowledgeable. America is unknowledgeable of being a slaveless government and slavery, especially chattel slavery. When I talk about the machination of a Maya people, it has always been an issue, and the average time of any nation has to suffer slavery is about what they always say 400 years. This is the duration of physical bondage, Moors, and this was no exception to the enslavement of West Coast Africans by other nations. And from 1492 to 1865 is of what, 373 years then, right? We can talk about all this science, man. We talk about U.S. slavery was only opposed by a few during Abe Lincoln's presidency, and the historically verse knew the time was coming for their emancipation. And Abraham Lincoln, as a man, did not care whether the Africans were free or remained in slavery. If you research his writings, if you say you're a scholar, you know, in fact, the Emancipation Proclamation was such a perfect hoax of executive power. There are people 140 years later still believe it freed the slave. And Lincoln, most likely, being a politician, used that knowledge of history as a platform, you know, for him to acquire office. These are things that is written in history when you research the Lincoln files and you research all this science, you know, and that's when you know how to operate legally and lawfully. Abraham Lincoln knew the history and knew it well from the world's leading history books, the biblical scriptures, all biblical books, especially the book of Deuteronomy, the Leviticus codes, which dealt with systems of slavery. It's on the Liberty Bell, man. When it got to deal with freedom. You don't got to listen to me. I'm going to teach you law. Watch. At that time, I'm gonna point out the enslavement of Africans was strongly supported by the three of the world's four major religions. The Buddhists, the Hindus, the Confucians was the only religions order exempt from the modern enslavement of the ripe-skinned people of the continental Africa. That's why we respect all the laws of the prophets, Buddha, Confucius, you know. But by no means we suggest that the hands of India are innocent of an African slave trade, especially when their history has been stained by the world's foremost African slavers of all time. No disrespect, which were some of the Arabs. When we talk about the Arab slave trade, no disrespect to nobody. I'm just telling you, if you want to talk about history, you want to talk about some transatlantic slave trade, but you ain't gonna talk about the Arab slave trade, that's on you. I'm not here to argue with you. That's your religion. So, part two, we got 30 minutes to finish out, man, and we're gonna be done. So I'm about to cut off, get a drink of water, and part two, we're gonna connect the 5/5 and what being a so-called citizen is all about. Peace.